At precisely 2:13 a.m. Tehran time, under the pale clarity of a full moon, the night sky above central Iran erupted into light and fury. What initially seemed like an isolated air incursion rapidly unfolded into one of the most audacious and strategically calculated military operations the Middle East has witnessed in decades. In a matter of hours, Israeli warplanes had penetrated Iranian airspace, evaded layers of overlapping air defenses, and delivered crippling blows to the core of Iran's nuclear infrastructure. But the true scale of the operation only became apparent as smoke still curled from the wreckage. This was not a symbolic strike. It was a multi-domain campaign of precision, coordination, and deception, merging air power with covert ground action in real time. For over a decade, Israel had issued warnings, veiled and otherwise, about the red lines Iran's nuclear program must not cross. Yet, for all the rhetoric, Tel Aviv has chosen caution over confrontation, cyber over cruise missiles, sabotage over open warfare. That restraint ended on June 13, 2025, when the Israeli Defense Forces unleashed what would later be confirmed as Operation Rising Lion, a name chosen as much for psychological effect as operational secrecy. The first sign that Iran's vast airspace had been compromised came not from radar screens, but from the ground. A sudden power outage at the Natanz fuel enrichment facility followed moments later by a shattering concussion that lit the desert skyline. This was not the work of a single aircraft or an isolated missile, but part of a meticulously coordinated air campaign that would unfold in multiple synchronized waves across the country. At its core were Israel's most advanced assets. The F-35I Adir stealth fighters, uniquely customized versions of the American-made F-35A, re-engineered to meet the operational demands and electronic warfare requirements of the Israeli Air Force. Unlike standard F-35 variants, the Adir integrates Israeli-developed software, sensor fusion algorithms, and mission-specific EW suites, allowing it to operate autonomously in GPS-denied environments and engage with real-time battlefield intelligence drawn from an integrated national defense network. Flying from Negev and Ramon air bases, the first wave of F-35Is entered Iranian airspace under the cover of a full moon, a decision that may seem counterintuitive at first glance. But this choice was deliberate. Israel's pilots had trained under moonlit desert conditions for years, knowing that the ambient light would favor their electro-optical targeting pods, while simultaneously degrading the performance of Iranian infrared sensors. Moonlight also allowed Israeli pilots to visually verify terrain features and target structures without relying solely on radar emissions, which could be tracked. In essence, the night sky was bright enough for precision, but dark enough for invisibility. Electronic warfare platforms, including Gulfstream-based Shavit aircraft and ATAM AEW&C systems, were already in the air, jamming and confusing Iranian defense radars across multiple frequency bands. The objective wasn't just stealth, but saturation. Within minutes, Iranian operators at air defense nodes across Esfahan, Hamadan, and Bushehr found themselves unable to distinguish between real contacts and phantom echoes. In this cloak of confusion, Israeli strike aircraft moved into position, releasing bunker-busting Spice 1000 and Rampage glide bombs on above-ground infrastructure around Natanz and Fordo, and launching standoff-delivered munitions toward ballistic missile silos and airbase runways. What followed was a precisely timed escalation. After the first strikes, a second wave of fighters, this time including F-15Is and upgraded F-16I Sufas, swept in to suppress any surviving surface-to-air missile sites, striking key radar stations and S-200-300 batteries positioned near Kermanshah and Tabriz. These older Russian systems proved sluggish against modern EW assault and stealth penetration. Simultaneously, loitering munitions and suicide drones launched from offshore platforms and special forces inside Iran, feeding command and control nodes near the Arak reactor and Esfahan nuclear technology center. Perhaps most crucially, the IAF took care to neutralize Iranian air bases and forward aviation assets before they could retaliate. Runways at Tabriz, Hamadan and Dezful were cratered. Aircraft shelters were demolished, and fuel depots ignited in spectacular secondary explosions. This deliberate sequencing of strikes, first to blind, then to strike, and finally to cripple response capability, showed a level of operational layering more akin to Western military doctrines than the traditional Middle Eastern model of limited air raids. By the time the fourth and fifth waves arrived, primarily for bomb damage assessment and suppression of remaining missile infrastructure, the Iranian skies were effectively uncontested. What few interceptors scrambled were forced to disengage or were destroyed on the ground. Israeli drones operating at high altitude and transmitting real-time imagery confirmed extensive damage not only to physical structures but to Iran's strategic perception. Nowhere, not even in hardened bunkers, could Tehran guarantee sanctuary. While the roar of Israeli jets thundered across Iranian skies, a parallel battle was being waged far from radar coverage, on the ground, deep inside Iranian territory. For months, Israeli intelligence assets, operating under the umbrella of Mossad's clandestine action division, had laid the groundwork for this operation. This wasn't a last-minute insertion of commandos. It was the culmination of a multi-phase infiltration campaign that had placed Israeli special forces, locally recruited agents, and pre-positioned drones within striking distance of Iran's mobile missile launchers and radar nodes. In the weeks leading up to the assault, Mossad operatives had smuggled in dozens of low-profile, long-loitering drones disguised as commercial or agricultural UAVs. These were not reconnaissance tools alone. They were equipped with shaped charges, anti-radiation payloads, and in some cases, miniature thermobaric warheads designed specifically to destroy mobile transporter-erector launcher vehicles. These drones were housed in rented farms, abandoned warehouses, or even parked trucks scattered across western and central Iran, activated only hours before the first strike. Each drone had been pre-fed with coordinates of suspected IRGC launch zones and radar vans, some of which had been geolocated using advanced SIGINT intercepts conducted from Israeli assets in Azerbaijan and the Persian Gulf. As the first Israeli bombs hit Esfahan and Natanz, Israeli special operations teams already inside Iran initiated Phase 2. The neutralization of Iran's retaliatory strike capability. Operating in four-man units, these commandos, likely drawn from Sayeret Matkal and Shayatet 13, moved rapidly under cover of darkness using commercial vehicles and local guides. Equipped with man-portable loitering munitions, including Israeli-developed Hero 120s and Sky Striker drones, they launched precision attacks against mobile missile launchers in Kermanshah, Khorramabad, and outside Shiraz, where several Shahab 3 and Sejil platforms had been deployed. What made this ground campaign extraordinary was its integration with the air campaign. As Israeli F-35Is blinded radar and jammed communications, special forces used on-the-ground laser designators to guide air-dropped munitions onto hardened bunkers and underground entrances too deeply buried for autonomous targeting. In at least 2 cases, field teams reportedly hacked into local traffic control and military dispatch systems to generate false alarms and misdirect Iranian Quds Force patrols, creating safe corridors for drone and munitions deployment. One of the most critical operations occurred near the Zagros mountain ranges, where Israel believed Iran had relocated several solid-fuel medium-range missile launchers. Here, Israeli ground teams launched man-in-the-loop micro-drones, circling above suspected target zones while awaiting positive ID via thermal imaging. Once confirmed, the drones dived silently, striking launchers with precision-guided warheads, destroying some of the most mobile and evasive pieces of Iran's missile arsenal before they could be moved or hidden in tunnel systems. Among the most lethal tools employed by the Israeli commandos during the ground campaign were fire-and-forget anti-tank guided missiles, specifically variants of the Spike SR and Spike LR systems. These shoulder-launched missiles gave small teams immense standoff power against armored escorts and mobile missile transporters. In at least 3 confirmed engagements, Israeli teams used Spike LR missiles from concealed elevated positions to ambush TEL vehicles as they emerged from tunnel exits or forested cover. The missile's electro-optical seeker allowed operators to lock onto heat signatures or optical contrasts, fire, and immediately reposition without needing to guide the weapon post-launch. This capability was crucial in avoiding detection by nearby IRGC units, enabling multiple launcher kills within minutes before exfiltrating under drone surveillance. The Spike's tandem warhead proved effective not only against armor, but also in disabling heavy-duty trucks and radar-carrying command vehicles, collapsing Iran's layered missile deployment before it could fully activate. To further enhance their stealth and survivability, Israeli special forces made extensive use of thermal camouflage blankets during the operation, especially when staging ambushes or setting up firing positions for their Spike missions. These lightweight, radar-absorbent covers were draped over sniper hides, firing positions, and drone launch points, effectively masking the heat signatures of both personnel and equipment from Iranian thermal surveillance systems. This passive concealment, combined with the fire-and-forget capability of the Spike LR, allowed operators to eliminate targets from standoff distances and exfiltrate without revealing their location, even as Iranian forces scrambled to deploy UAVs and IR sensors in response. By dawn, the immediate tactical outcomes of Operation Rising Lion were undeniable. Iran's nuclear facilities at Natanz, Arak, and Esfahan had suffered severe damage. Key missile bases and launchers were reduced to twisted steel, and multiple IRGC command centers had been decapitated. One of the most devastating blows to Iran came not from the destruction of buildings, but from the targeted killing of several high-ranking military and scientific figures. Among confirmed dead were Major General Mohammad Bagheri, Iran's Chief of Staff, and IRGC Aerospace Force Commander Amir Ali Hajizadeh, both of whom were killed in coordinated strikes on hardened underground command bunkers near Tehran and Esfahan. The assassinations were carried out with a level of precision that suggested long-term human intelligence placement and exact timing. Some reports indicate that kinetic penetrators or bunker-busting glide bombs were paired with real-time signal triangulation to ensure the targets were present at the moment of impact. In the scientific sphere, the blow was no less severe. Dr. Ehsan Abbasi, lead engineer for uranium metallurgy at the Arak Heavy Water Reactor, and Dr. Farid Rahmani, the theoretical physicist overseeing weaponization simulations at Fordo, were among several top-level nuclear experts confirmed killed. Some died in direct strikes on research labs. Others were reportedly targeted by follow-up drone attacks on convoy routes or field shelters believed to be evacuation points. The loss of these individuals, many of whom possessed rare technical knowledge not easily replaceable, may have set Iran's nuclear weaponization efforts back by years, not months. Israel has shown that decapitation strikes, autonomous drone warfare, and special operations conducted deep behind enemy lines can be fused into a single operational tempo. It succeeded without mass mobilization, without occupying territory, and with near total control of the narrative and tempo of engagement.